She sat quietly in the back of the black car, watching the city blur past the window. No suitcase. No farewell. Just a contract and a signature, hers not included. Her ex-husband, Julian Vance, had traded her away like a corporate asset, not even bothering to look her in the eye as he sealed the deal. "You'll thank me for this someday," he had smirked. She didn't respond. What could she say? That the man she'd built an empire beside had tossed her like a pawn in a high-stakes game? Marcus Blackwood wasn't known for kindness. The CEO of Blackwood International, he was as ruthless as he was brilliant. Men respected him. Women feared him. Rivals collapsed under the weight of his precision. And now, thanks to one desperate, arrogant ex-husband, Elena belonged to him, at least on paper. She arrived at his estate late, after the staff had retired and the halls had fallen silent. No one greeted her. No tour, no instructions. Just a keycard and a note. *, you're expected in the morning. *, the coldness didn't sting. Not anymore. She'd been invisible for years. Silently supporting, quietly enduring. She was used to being the one no one noticed. Morning came with soft footsteps and unanswered questions. She found herself placed in an administrative assistant role. Gifted help, they called it, behind closed doors. But Elena wasn't here to make noise. She observed, listened, understood the flow of the company faster than anyone expected. While others talked loudly in meetings, she noticed who always came late, who whispered in corners, who deleted emails just a little too quickly. Marcus didn't speak to her directly for the first week. He was too busy closing billion-dollar deals, cutting inefficiencies, rebuilding after a brutal corporate war. But he noticed something was smoother. Reports were prepped earlier. His schedule, always a mess, now flowed like clockwork. No missed appointments. No double bookings. It wasn't dramatic. It was surgical. Precise. He liked that. She stayed late. Not out of obligation, but instinct. One evening, while filing last-minute documents in his office, she paused. Something was off. One spreadsheet, numbers didn't align. A minor shipping discrepancy on a third-party vendor's invoice. Most would have missed it. She didn't. She made a note, highlighted it quietly, and filed the corrected version without a word. No fanfare. No credit. The next day, Marcus stared at the correction for a full 5 minutes. No one had flagged the issue before. It saved him nearly $500,000 in projected losses. He said nothing to Elena, but he looked at her differently in their next passing. Slightly longer. Not curiosity, calculation. Elena continued her silent work. She remembered people's birthdays. Caught small errors in legal brief. She added one sentence to a press release that prevented a PR crisis. The building's staff began treating her with cautious respect. Not because she demanded it. Because they realized things went better when she was around. Julian called once. Asked how she was enjoying her promotion. She listened to him gloat, his voice dripping with smugness. She said nothing. Just hung up. Let him think what he wanted. Let everyone think what they wanted. Because the truth was, she was watching. And soon, they'd all see who they'd given away. Elena kept to the edges of the room, her presence unnoticed but never idle. While others talked over each other in meetings, she watched who interrupted, who lied with confidence, who avoided eye contact when numbers didn't add up. She tracked patterns, connections, behaviors, every detail filed away. Marcus's operation was airtight on the surface, sleek, intimidating, profitable. But underneath, Elena saw the fractures. Emails didn't match verbal reports. Project timelines were manipulated, subtly, just enough to dodge suspicion. Marcus trusted his inner circle, but Elena didn't. Not because of paranoia, because of data. She handled his schedule now. Quietly, efficiently. He didn't ask her to. He simply stopped correcting it. He noticed how she left margin for overrun meetings, how she strategically spaced briefings to keep him sharp, never fatigue. He never complimented her, but he stopped questioning her choices. That was more telling. Executives whispered about her. The CEO's charity case. The ex-wife turned secretary. They underestimated her, even as they used the reports she compiled. They copied her formatting, her structure. But no one thanked her. That didn't matter. What mattered was what she found in a logistics update. A recurring vendor with inconsistent delivery logs. Same client. Same amount. Different invoice codes. She flagged it silently, ran her own checks through public record. A shell company. No legal footprint. Someone was siphoning money. Slowly, carefully. She said nothing. Yet. That night, Marcus paused outside his office to see her working. No makeup. No performance. Just focus. He watched as she corrected a financial projection his CFO had submitted earlier. A quiet note beside a revised figure. She didn't know he saw. He said nothing and left. The next morning, the CFO was audited. Elena didn't smile. Didn't celebrate. She simply moved on to the next discrepancy. Marcus began forwarding select reports to her, privately. No instructions. Just files. A silent test. She answered with precise analysis, every point backed by evidence. He replied once, asterisk, good catch. Asterisk, that was the most praise she'd received in years. One afternoon, she saw a memo about internal restructuring. She noted who gained power and who lost budget. On the surface, normal shift. Beneath it, strategic manipulation. Someone was engineering departmental chaos. Subtle enough to appear organic, but the fingerprints were there. She circled names. Logged behaviors. Built a timeline. No one noticed the quiet assistant working late, night after night, piecing together a puzzle no one else saw. But Marcus noticed. And he started watching her the way she watched his company. Elena traced the altered invoices to a name she recognized, Victor Lang, Marcus's most trusted VP. On paper, flawless. In practice, too clean. His files were always perfect. Too perfect. No mistakes, no overlaps, no noise. The kind of silence that hid something. She pulled archived communications. Delays in procurement always followed Victor's approvals. Project delays were blamed on suppliers, but the paper trail said otherwise. Elena compared timestamps, matched file edit. Victor had been quietly rerouting funds through shell vendors owned by subsidiaries with buried ties to a competitor Marcus once crushed. The betrayal wasn't just financial, it was personal. She didn't take it to Marcus. Not yet. She needed more than suspicion. She began logging everything. Backup copies. Printouts hidden behind mundane folders. If this unraveled, she'd need evidence. Unshakable and clean. She didn't trust the system to protect her. She trusted only herself. Her ex-husband called again. This time, he was panicked. The merger he'd bet on, Marcus's new acquisition, was stalling. Elena didn't speak. She let him vent, let him gloat about knowing Blackwood's weakness, trust. Then he slipped. Mentioned Victor by name. Laughed about how easy it had been. That was the confirmation she needed. Marcus started watching her differently. He never asked questions, but he saw her late hours, the way she paused at certain doors, how she listened when others talked. He tested her once, gave her a file marked confidential, and watched who she spoke to afterward. She spoke to no one. But 3 hours later, she returned with a single sticky note. Asterisk, this projection is off by 3.2%, trend manipulation. Asterisk, he didn't ask how she knew. At the next board briefing, Victor controlled the room. Slick, confident, backed by years of loyalty. Elena sat silently in the back, taking note. She caught the shift in his language. Future tense on already completed deals. Generalities instead of specifics. A single phrase repeated. Asterisk, you'll see the return soon. Asterisk, it wasn't reassurance. It was a stall. Later that night, a plain envelope slid under her office door. No sender. Inside. Screenshots, emails, and a photo. Victor in a cafe with a senior executive from Drosscorp. The competitor Marcus had nearly destroyed 3 years earlier. The man who'd sworn revenge. She stared at the photo. No more doubt. The man Marcus trusted most was selling him out. Elena didn't sleep. She laid out everything she had: documents, timestamps, financial trails, off-record meetings, internal edits that pointed straight to Victor. Every move calculated, every transfer small enough to stay under audit threshold. It wasn't sloppy. It was designed to be invisible. But not to her. She prepared a full report, every detail mapped, every connection backed with proof. She didn't rush it. She didn't want Marcus to have questions. She wanted him to have answers. That morning, she walked into his office without being called. He looked up, surprised, but not annoyed. She placed the file on his desk. No preamble. Just facts. Victor had been siphoning company resources and feeding intelligence to their rival for over a year. Marcus didn't speak for a full minute. He read the report with a stillness that felt dangerous. Then he looked at her. "How long have you known?" "Long enough to be sure," she said. He nodded once. No praise. Just action. By noon, Victor was summoned for an internal audit. By 2, the IT department locked down his access. By 4, legal had everything they needed. Victor didn't go quietly. He denied, deflected, accused. Called the allegations fabricated. Called Elena a liar. Called her a discarded wife looking for revenge. Marcus didn't flinch. He dropped a printed photo on the table. Victor, meeting with Drosscorp's CFO. Then the spreadsheets. Then the backdated memos. The silence that followed was the end of a career. Victor tried one last time. "You believe her over me?" "I believe the numbers," Marcus said. "And the woman who saw them when no one else did." Security escorted Victor out. The office didn't cheer. It watched, quiet, stunned. The man no one noticed had been caught by the woman everyone ignored. Later that evening, Marcus found Elena alone in the records room, filing away the last of her evidence. He stood in the doorway, silent for a moment. "You saw him before I did." She didn't look up. "I pay attention." He stepped closer. "You saved this company." "No. I just made sure it didn't collapse quietly." For the first time, he smiled. Not a performance. Not polite. Real. "I owe you." She met his eyes. "Don't waste it." Elena's reputation no longer remained confined to whispered acknowledgments in quiet corridors. The quiet efficiency with which she had uncovered financial discrepancies and unmasked internal sabotage demanded recognition. In a board meeting that had once felt like a battleground of arrogant voices and polished power, her meticulous findings were now the standard. With every word measured and every figure precise, she presented reforms that would safeguard the company against future betrayals. Her assertions, blunt and undeniable, silenced doubters and made them reconsider the value of paying attention to what others overlook. Colleagues who had once dismissed her as an afterthought now sought her counsel. The very details she had scrutinized, those small, seemingly insignificant anomalies, became the foundation on which new policies were built. Contracts were revised, reporting systems overhauled, and a culture of accountability slowly replaced the old hierarchy of silence. Her methods, precise and unembellished, underscored the power of quiet leadership. Each recommendation was delivered without theatrical flourish, yet its impact resonated loudly through the halls of the company. Marcus, once the embodiment of cold efficiency, began to see beyond the surface of business operations. In Elena's steady gaze and unwavering determination, he found a reflection of his own long-buried ideals. He started to involve her in strategic discussions. Her insights, sharp as a scalpel, cut through layers of bureaucracy and indifference. The gap between them, once measured in unspoken grievances and mutual suspicion, narrowed as respect replaced the old protocols. Their exchanges were no longer formalities but genuine interactions, punctuated by brief acknowledgments of shared purpose. In that unyielding environment of corporate survival, Elena transformed from a shadow barely noticed to a linchpin in the company's future. While others had operated on the surface of tasks, she delved into every nuance, establishing a standard of excellence that could not be ignored. Her rise was not heralded by grand pronouncements, but by the quiet revolution of improved systems and restored integrity. As the new framework took hold, employees began to see change, not just in spreadsheets or reports, but in the culture itself. Elena's journey from the overlooked to the indispensable underscored a simple truth: greatness is often found in the details. And in those details, she had found both her power and the respect of an empire. Marcus stood before the glass wall of his office, the city's skyline stretching far beneath him. Behind him, Elena placed the finalized acquisition report on his desk. He didn't turn. He didn't need to. He'd read every page before she printed it. He trusted her work like he trusted few things: precise, thorough, unquestionable. The company was stabilizing. The internal threat neutralized, operations tighter, leaner, honest. But something else had shifted. In meetings, Marcus watched how people deferred to Elena. Not out of fear, not for approval, but because she had become the standard. She spoke less than anyone in the room, yet when she did, the room held its breath. Her influence wasn't power-hungry. It was earned. Quietly. Intentionally. Through a relentless commitment to doing what others missed. She never asked for recognition, but she commanded it, simply by showing up when others hid and delivering results that couldn't be ignored. The board extended her contract. A formal title followed: Chief Integrity Officer. A name Marcus had coined himself. She accepted it with the same stillness she carried through every room. No celebration. Just a nod. Then back to work. Late one night, as the building emptied and lights dimmed, Marcus found her still in the analytics suite. He didn't announce himself. Just stood beside her, both of them facing the data wall, lines of code, figures, trend projections glowing softly. "You never asked why I accepted the deal," he said finally. Elena didn't look away. "Because you saw what Julian never did." His jaw tightened at the name. "I saw someone he underestimated, and I needed someone who wouldn't flinch. You didn't trust me." "No," he admitted. "I watched you first. Then I did." She turned to him. "And now?" He held her gaze. "Now I believe in you." The silence stretched, steady and charged. There were no declarations, no sudden gestures, just understanding. Between two people who had built something out of broken agreements, betrayal, and overlooked truth. Elena walked out of the room, her presence lingering behind like a current in the air. Marcus remained still, watching the screen fade to black. He didn't chase her. He didn't need to. She was already his equal, and the heart of everything that came next.